What's up everyone, Lachlan here again. Today we've got Spectravox. It is a semi-modular analog spectral processor from Moog. And we're going to be taking a look at how it works, a few tips and tricks, a few ways to use it, and a bit about filter banks. Let's get into it. So Spectravox kind of combines all the history and innovation that Moog has in fixed filter banks, which is a set of filters, and vocoding. I could probably do a whole nother video on the vocoding side of this thing. I'm just going to focus on how we can use this as a fixed filter bank. So what is a filter bank? A filter bank is a set of filters that are each individually targeting a different band or a different band of frequencies. So as you can see on the front panel, with the fixed filter bank 1 is a low pass filter, we've got a high pass filter in 10, and then another 8, which are all evenly distributed across the band of frequencies. The cool thing about Spectravox's filter bank is that with this spectral shift button, I can actually shift and sweep that filter bank through the frequency spectrum up or down. And it's even got an inbuilt LFO, so I can actually modulate that as well. So this is really cool because we've got 10 resonant filters we can modulate in a variety of different ways. Just before we dive in, I've got a bunch of gear with me here, all to either process through Spectravox or actually modulate the filters themselves. Okay, so let's quickly listen to the internal oscillator and how those filters interact with it. So if we just turn up the 5th band, take off that LFO, and if I just shift the spectral shift up and down, you can hear it shift through the frequency band. So now as I introduce more bands of frequencies, we can start to actually sculpt the tone to our liking. You can add a bit of resonance in as well. And you can actually start to hear that sort of vowel-like tone, which is where the vocoding comes in. So now, if I actually introduce a slow LFO, introduce all the bands now, introduce a bit of pulse width modulation. Let's see how crazy we can get. So I can actually shift that all the way up into audio rates with the LFO. So that's Spectravox getting used on its own, but we can take the same concept and process external audio. So I've got a couple of Eurorack modules here. I've created a kind of washed out soundscape. So I'm actually going to pass that through Spectravox and use Spectravox to actually shift and modulate through that soundscape I've created to create a more dynamic and moving sound. Cool, so let's plug it into the carrier input. Turn it up. So you can't hear anything because I don't have any of the bands turned up. So we're going to start by turning up band 5 again. Turning that spectral shift through the frequencies. So not a lot of information there. As I start to turn up more of them, you can hear that soundscape. Might give it a bit more juice. So now with all the bands up, I'm going to start spectrally shifting through the band of frequencies using the spectral shift dial. Actually here I can sort of dial in different harmonics, resonant harmonics, and if I introduce resonance I can actually sort of fortify those resonant frequencies a bit more. If I crank the resonance, it's almost like a phaser. Now if I keep that spectral shift at 12 o'clock and introduce the LFO. So yeah, this can be a great way of processing your final mix or a soundscape like that, just to create a bit more movement. So Moog Spectravox is actually part of the Moog semi-modular family. And the cool thing is that all of them come with these really handy preset overlays. And this one happens to be a really great patch of something that I thought was really cool. So let's set it up. One of the things that filter banks were really commonly used with was actually synthesizing acoustic instruments, and the way they did that was by mimicking the tonal qualities of that wave. And the way they could do that was by introducing different bands of frequencies to match that of the instrument they were trying to synthesize. So this one is called Did I Buy a Marimba, and it actually synthesizes the tonal quality of the marimba by pinging the resonant filters at specific frequencies and bands. So you can actually see each band, we've got 2, 3, 7, and 9 all turned up to a certain level. And we're actually going to ping it using the DFAM as a trigger source to actually ping those resonant frequencies and shift the filters through the frequency band. So now DFAM is triggering, you can actually hear it. So now if we actually introduce different pitches, actually, you know what I want? Let's try it with velocity. I'm going to trigger the pattern using the velocity, and then I'm going to actually take the pitch of DFAM. And so now, let's introduce a bit of this LFO. A really slow LFO. I mean, you could just muck around doing this for ages. Now let's just randomize a few of those pitches. And you can actually hear that sort of mallet-like tone of the filters getting pinged by DFAM. So now I can actually set where these filters are getting pinged, or at least the range that these are getting pinged using the spectral shift dial. So if I want a higher set, then I can just dial in what I like from DFAM and the rhythm using the velocity triggers. So I could do a bunch of things with this. I could sample this little run I've got going and use it in my tracks, or I could then modulate it even further using some of the other patch points on Spectravox and DFAM. Because at the moment, all I'm using is just the DFAM to ping Spectravox. I could, patch Spectravox a bit more, or any number of things from here. Now, I can process any external audio through Spectravox if I plug any audio source into the carrier input here. But at the moment, I've only got a 1/4-inch jack, so I'm actually going to plug it into the program input, which is usually used when you're using Spectravox as a vocoder. I just need to then patch the program output into the carrier input to override the internal oscillator. Man, I nailed that. Cool, so I've set up a kick and snare pattern on the DFAM. I'm going to run that through the Spectravox and see what we can muck around with. So we'll just run it on its own. So what I can do is I can actually start to take out or add more of these filter bands to adjust the tone quality. So let's take out, 2. So you can already hear it starting to change. Add a bit of resonance and spectrally shift it. So let's modulate that using the internal LFO. That's pretty cool. Wait. Spectravox not only gives us a bank of 10 filters, it also gives us the ability to modulate them internally with envelope followers, because what it does is it actually analyzes the frequency spectrum and distributes it evenly across the filter bank and produces an envelope follower for each filter. And so what we can do is we can take the output of those envelope followers and modulate other bands in the filter bank to muck around with the sound even more. And this can be quite a subtle effect or quite a large effect. Let's find out which one I get. So let's run the DFAM again. So let's going to take this low band here and I'm going to plug it up into band 8. And we'll take 9 and plug it down to here. So that's not really doing much. Or something drastic like the high pass filter and modulating the envelope follower of the low pass filter. So the great thing about Spectravox is that you can use it in the traditional sense as just a classic bank of filters for you to process your sounds with, or you can just dive a little bit deeper and use it as its own unique synthesizer voice, and even as a vocoder, which we didn't even have the time to get into today. Thanks for sticking around. Stay tuned for more videos on the Spectravox. I'll see you in the next one.